I'm Richard Randall. Welcome back to the Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has the buyers, barbhasthebuyers.com. Barb, many home sellers fear the inspection. Many people think most buyers want to purchase their home as is. So what are some of the high-cost home inspection traps that home sellers need to know about before they even put their home up for sale?
Well, Richard, I think it's very valid to check out the systems in your home before you go on the market, because once you accept a contract, you've kind of started the process of moving and packing, and you're thinking everything's going to go fine. And all of a sudden, the buyer's inspector and the buyer request this expensive, ridiculous repair. Some of the ones that are really expensive are things like a sewer line. Replacing a sewer line can get really expensive. And most people actually don't bother with their sewer line unless there's a backup or a problem. But what almost all the buyers now, when they're doing their inspection, they're running a sewer scope. And if there's a fracture or if it's eroded, they're asking the sellers to replace it. It could cost anywhere from $4,000 to $12,000. I've even heard bigger numbers from a client I just met with yesterday. So you want to be prepared for this, because when you're down to the 30-day time clock to move and all that, that is not the time to be dealing with a big expensive repair. You want time to negotiate. So anyway, the most common failures of contracts typically are inspections, and even brand new homes have problems, right? So it's one of the biggest fears that most home sellers have is their fear of surprises on their inspection. Sometimes they're worried about permits and building code issues. Sometimes they're worried about buyers making unreasonable requests. And I will tell you, it's not just buyers. I've had agents encourage their buyers to make unreasonable requests just because they wanted to say they won. It's so frustrating, and we've seen it happen quite a bit. So the fear is very real. And most sellers, like you said, do assume that the buyer loves your house and they're going to take it as is, no problems. But after they go under contract is when they do their inspection. So for the buyer, we have to educate the buyer that this is not their time to get new stuff or to get upgrades of things that they want. This is time to just check out the systems and make sure everything's functional. And if something is broken, then it's reasonable to ask for it to be repaired. There are actually 33 different physical problems, at least, that come under scrutiny. And right now, the inventory is still on the low side, actually. Some buyers say they won't ask for cosmetic issues. Like, we'll see that in contracts once in a while. They're like, oh, we're only going to ask for health, safety, plumbing, electrical. It's like, okay, isn't that kind of everything?
That's a pretty long list. Yeah.
It's hilarious when I see those in the contract. Here's the thing that shocks most home sellers when I meet with them. Did you know that in the state of Colorado, there is no license and no certification requirements whatsoever to be a home inspector?
So the average person listening to us up and down the Front Range could go out and be a home inspector without ever even going to school, taking a class online or otherwise.
That's correct. I could be a home inspector, and I'm very scary with a tool in my hand. So it's not something that most people know about. A lot of the home inspectors will get an online certification, if that makes you feel any better. You know, it's an online class.
Really? Yeah.
But I've actually, in my experience, I've had landscapers do an inspection. I've had the buyer's dad do an inspection, and those usually did not turn out well. So here's the problem. If you have somebody coming in and scrutinizing your home and judging your home, sometimes they have influence over the buyer, so much so that they can encourage them to walk away from the house. So we don't want that to happen. We actually have systems in place to protect the home sellers up front. We actually have what we call a certified pre-owned home program, where we actually bring in a trusted inspector that we like, and we do the inspection up front. That way the seller knows going in, they can start working on their repairs if they want, they can disclose any adverse facts. And it gives them the confidence that if they get Joe Billy Bob as their inspector that's not qualified and ask for something ridiculous, they can say, no, we're not doing that. So these are the most common things that we see on inspections. Because we have a lot of hail all along the Front Range, we get roofs dinged all the time for all kinds of things: hail damage, wind damage. It's a constant thing. So we include with our certified pre-owned home program actual free roof certification. We have a licensed roofer come out and take a look at the home and make sure that there may or may not be any issues. The typical things that get scrutinized are furnace, electrical, plumbing, water heater, that sort of thing. The furnace, I would recommend before you go on the market, definitely just have it cleaned and serviced and checked out. The water heater. So a lot of people think it's okay to stick a water heater in their house without getting a permit. But in most of these counties, anytime you're touching a gas burning appliance, I don't know about electric, but you have to get a permit to put a water heater in. And of course, the building code changes all the time. It's different county to county. So you really want a HVAC professional to come out and check both of those systems before you go on the market. It's really weird about water heaters. Sometimes the HVAC people will say, oh, they only last 6 to 10 years and yours is 15 years old and you got to replace it. Well, ours, Richard, lasted 20 years and we replaced it just because I was afraid of them failing when we were out of town. But actually, it depends on the system and how it's cared for. And some of them last longer than that. So occasionally what we see on inspection objections is that the buyer asks for a new water heater only because it's older than the 6 to 10 year range. So it doesn't make sense. If it's working, then it's working. And that's why we try to take care of all these things in advance and make sure the seller has confidence when they're facing an inspection objection, that they know what to say yes to and what to say no to. Oftentimes, these inspectors also on the electrical side will ask a homeowner to bring their home up to current building code, and that's not required. If it was remodeled, it's required, but if it hasn't been remodeled, you don't have to have a GFC outlet in every space where there is a GFCI is one of those electric plugs where it'll pop if you overload that particular plug. The older homes may have only had 2 in the whole house. The newer building code, they're in every single bathroom, kitchen, everywhere there's water, you'll see one of those circuits. So sometimes the inspectors will ask for those. In a lot of the houses, they put in this old electrical panel called a Federal Pacific, which has a horrible reputation online. So I typically tell my home sellers, hey, do not be surprised if they ask for a new panel because they're deemed unsafe by the internet. So if as long as you know that up front, it's not a real estate emergency and you can plan for it. Plumbing is also something that we'll see hidden things here and there. I get a kick out of these inspectors. They'll show up with their infrared scanner. It's hilarious. And they'll show it on the drywall wherever they think plumbing, and they'll go, oh, that's colder there, that's warmer there, so therefore there must be a plumbing leak. Actually,
this is like Ghostbusters stuff. What the heck?
It totally is. It's hilarious. And, sometimes it's wrong. So you always you just have to take some of those things with a grain of salt. And then, of course, appliances need to be functional. With our certified pre-owned home program, we actually certify those systems. But a lot of home sellers don't know that the refrigerator and the washer and dryer are actually considered personal property. So if you want to include them with the sale, to me, it's a gift to a buyer. It's only worth about $150 per appliance. But if you've gone out and purchased one of those, even a used one, you're going to spend 3 or 4 times that easily. So if you're going to include them, usually I will put a little note in the disclosure, or I'll recommend that they say, all right, these systems that are gifts are as is. If something breaks on these gifts for appliances, that's your problem. And then some other things, sewer, I mentioned, is a big problem. Septic, every county has different rules about septic systems, and you want to make sure you check that out in advance. So, and those repairs absolutely could be super expensive. I talked about gadgets, even the carbon monoxide detectors. So carbon monoxide detectors are required by state law now within 15 feet of the entrance in the bedrooms. But I also see inspectors come in with their carbon monoxide detecting gadgets. And I've had those be inappropriately used and scare a buyer away from the house. It was a brand new furnace, and he shut it down in the winter and called it failed because his gadget was wrong. So I see crazy stuff. And if you are thinking of making a move, you want to hire somebody that has the expertise and the sales volume to help you get the home to the finish line and to know when to say no for those requests. So you can go to barbhasthebuyers.com. If you want us to match one of our buyers in waiting to your home, you can go to barbhasthebuyers.com and click on the button right in the middle that says find my buyer. And if you're not thinking of moving soon and you'd like to get one of our free reports, here's another free report that we're offering on barbhasthebuyers.com that's titled The 11 Things You Should Know to Pass Your Home Inspection. So you can go on the green button in the upper left-hand corner and download that at barbhasthebuyers.com, or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit the website barbhasthebuyers.com. Again, that's barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about, will housing prices fall as the interest rates are rising? Stay tuned for that.